We sent a very powerful signal to the Kremlin. We are not intimidated, we are determined to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. And it's very concrete, this is operational. 50 billion euros in addition for Ukraine. It means more military equipment and more capacities and capabilities for Ukraine to defend themselves and to defend our common European values.
Alright guys, so we are past the point of no return. The G7 has officially seized Russia's frozen assets, and the money will be with Ukraine by November or December. Sure, using Russia's assets against themselves sounds really smart. You get to prolong the war and hope Russia collapses down the road. But this move destroys trust in the global financial system. The G7 has crossed the Rubicon, and this marks the decline of the Western system. The West has rewritten the rules to their benefit, and President Biden has made it crystal clear. This is a reminder to Putin that we are not backing down. This is financial escalation of the highest order. The economic system is based on trust, which is already on shaky ground. And this is something we can all agree on. Inflation is bad enough. Money printing is worse, but asset confiscation is simply unthinkable. Russia's money will be used as collateral to back up G7 loans to Ukraine. And there's no turning back now for either the West or Russia. And here's how this scheme will work. The G7 members will form a loan syndicate where they will pool $50 billion together. Canada, for example, has pledged $5 billion to the fund, and the rest are expected to cough out money too. The balance will be funded by the US to bring the total amount up to $50 billion. But make no mistake, the G7 will be repaid. They will get repaid from the profits generated by the frozen assets. In other words, the G7 is front-loading the Russian profits to Ukraine to buy up weapons and ammunition. And this would also mean Russia's reserves will be immobilized indefinitely in Europe. The money is trapped in Belgium, and funding for the war will continue for many more years. And this highlights the level of desperation the West really has, and they will do anything to win the war. It might be financial escalation today, but something far more risky tomorrow. It's important to realize that Russia might never get back their reserves. By pulling this time, there are no limits anymore. $50 billion today could easily translate or evolve to a total confiscation a month or a year later. Just listen to the EU Council President Michel when asked about returning the assets to Russia, and this is quite disturbing.
What if the war were to end, which we all hope it will, and those assets need to be given back to the Russians? Who's going to underwrite these loans?
Well, it's an interesting question, but my answer is very simple. Russia has to pay. There is a blatant violation of the international law. This is a blatant aggression against the Ukrainians. They are the aggressor. There is a victim. There are rules at the international level. They have to pay, and that's why this money is blocked. That's why this money is frozen, and I'm very confident that we can use this money to support the Ukraine because this is fair.
Now, I don't know about you, but it sure as hell sounds like it's game over for the assets. And if Russia believes this to be so, the G7 has to prepare for full financial retaliation, a total counter-seizure of their own money. Over the past 12 months, Russia has been confiscating Western assets as well. Land has been seized, bank assets taken away, and companies nationalized. And there's a lot more that Putin can do. According to Moscow, there's nearly $290 billion of Western money ripe for seizure. We can expect more Western brands, banks, companies, and real estate to be seized in the months to come. And this is a complete decoupling between the Russian economy and the West. Neither side will be able to trust each other anymore, that's clear. We can also expect zero investment between the two as well. In a meeting with the foreign ministry, Putin called out the G7 seizure. He's warning of how targeting a nuclear power isn't a very smart idea.
Страны Запада заморозили часть российских активов и валютных резервов. Теперь думают над тем, как подвести хоть какую-то юридическую базу, чтобы их окончательно присвоить. Но, несмотря на все крючкотворство, воровство, безусловно, останется воровством. И безнаказанным не останется с другой стороны. Призывы нанести стратегическое поражение России, обладающей крупнейшим арсеналом ядерного оружия, демонстрирует запредельный авантюризм западных политиков. Они либо не понимают масштаба угрозы, которую сами порождают, либо попросту одержимы верой в собственную безнаказанность и собственную исключительность.
It's important we understand how dangerous this asset seizure really is. Russia's counter-confiscation is just the tip of the iceberg. Putin is going to work night and day to flip the entire financial system on its head. In terms of financial strategy, this is a very big blunder for the Western powers. You are putting your entire economies on the line. Russia's agenda now is to hammer away at the very idea of storing money in the West. We can be sure at every event, especially the upcoming BRICS summit, Putin will denounce this seizure. He'll go around sounding the gong. The majority of global assets today, they are stored in US Treasury bonds, and this is a $27 trillion market. Central banks globally all buy US debt and store it as their national reserves. Collectively, it's bigger than the entire G7 debt market plus China. By confiscating Russia's assets, you are throwing the US bond market into question. Why would you sacrifice the ability to borrow endlessly from the world, trillions of dollars, for just $50 billion today? There's simply no strategic logic to this. The US financial system is built on debt, and holders of your bonds rely on the guarantee that you will honor your obligations. Now this is broken. Janet Yellen believes giving Ukraine the assets is a good strategy, but the US economy isn't built for financial attrition.
Well, I think Ukraine needs to know that the allies are committed and able to support Ukraine for the long term. Russia looks like they're trying to wait us out, hope that we'll lose our resolve, and we want to take a step that will provide significant funding for Ukraine.
The problem now is China and the global south. They are all on high alert, and if a seizure could happen to Russia, they might be next tomorrow. And if you're China, the last thing you want are bonds or dollar assets circulating in the Western system. A huge buyer of US bonds is gonna disappear, and this will jack up borrowing costs across America. And considering the US deficit keeps growing non-stop, the day of reckoning is coming nearer and nearer. And a big shout out to our sponsor today, Indigo Precious Metals. When it comes to buying gold and silver, I trust Indigo Precious Metals in Singapore. They have made investing in precious metals safe, fast, easy, and simple for both small and large scale buying. I've been stacking gold for over a decade now, and I've learned two things when buying. You want to buy authentic gold bullion, and you want to buy it at the lowest premium possible to stretch your dollars even further. And I'm glad to say I found both of this at Indigo Precious Metals. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world today. We have geopolitical chaos and the values of fiat currencies getting debased. Inflation is not gonna end, and that's why I consistently buy gold to preserve my wealth. Indigo Precious Metals is a leading retailer in Singapore. They specialize in physical gold, silver, and platinum. They are my one-stop shop when it comes to buying bullion. Their prices are sharp, and they have the best brands on sale, and I can test the gold on the spot. So if you're looking to make your first gold purchase, Indigo Precious Metals is the best place to start. Whether it's 1 ounce or 1 kilo, this is the reputable dealer you are looking for. So take action today. Click on the link below and enjoy a discount on your first purchase with the code SeanFu. Start your gold stacking journey today. During the summit in Italy, the group has threatened China with sanctions once again, and this time is becoming more confrontational than ever. Reading the joint statement, it's quite clear that Chinese banks might be next on the line. Beijing won't stop trading with Russia, and the West is really getting desperate. We will continue taking measures against actors in China that materially support Russia's war machine. That includes financial institutions. So it's very possible in the months to come, China could be cut away from SWIFT, US banks, or their assets could get seized. There are no limits anymore. And put yourself in China and Russia's shoes. There are two steps you must take to secure your assets and economy, and both of them must happen simultaneously. The first move is to reduce your holdings of US bonds and power them into alternative assets such as gold. Since 2020, China has been doing just that. their holdings of US debt went from well over $1 trillion to under $770 billion worth. We can expect the decline to continue. It might even hit zero. At the same time, their holdings of gold are flying to the moon, hitting over $160 billion. China is diversifying away, and many other central banks will follow their lead. But sanction-proofing your reserves is just step one. China still runs an enormous trade surplus with the US and the West. Chinese companies earn money in dollars, which is then swept up to the government. What's more urgent is to construct a separate financial system to use those dollars without the US interfering. And China is doing this in multiple ways. Hong Kong officially launched their digital yuan payment system. The idea here is rather simple. Allow countries around the world to bypass the dollar in secret using the blockchain. So transactions can be done in the Chinese yuan directly to de-dollarize bilateral trade. If you're a country in Latin America, you don't need dollars to buy products made in China. You can use the yuan now. Russia is also doing their part to secure global trade. During his address at the St. Petersburg conference, Putin reminded the world that BRICS is building out the architecture of a new financial system.
Including within BRICS, we're working on shaping an independent payment system free from political pressure, abuse, and external sanctional interference. In this regard, I'd like to remind you that this year, BRICS was joined by new participants, that is, Saudi Arabia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Ethiopia. With this, the share of our association in global GDP has reached 36%.
Building a new financial system is now an existential issue. It might have been a feel-good idea 5 years back, but building one now is a matter of economic survival. What's interesting is who didn't turn up for the G7 summit. In a shocking revelation, MBS of Saudi Arabia didn't attend. He sent a message to Maloney declining the invitation, and this is really telling. The Saudis are on the sidelines of this, and it's clear they're hedging their bets. When the new financial system comes online, we can expect the kingdom to start using it in their trade with Russia and China. The priority for the global south is diversification, moving away from Western assets and finding new avenues to use their dollars without fear of sanctions. This summit also reveals quite a few things about Europe. Originally, they weren't exactly on board with the idea of seizure, but there seems to be a big shift in sentiment.
Der russische Präsident hat einen ganz offensichtlichen Plan. Er will so lange seinen Krieg vorantreiben, bis alle anderen aufgeben, die Ukraine zu unterstützen. Und dieser Plan ist heute gescheitert. Denn mit der Absicht der G7-Staaten 50 Milliarden Dollar zu mobilisieren, die aus den Erträgen, den Windfall Profits der eingefrorenen russischen Einlagen finanziert wird, ist die Grundlage dafür geschaffen, dass die Ukraine in der Lage ist, in der nächsten Zeit all das zu beschaffen, was sie beschaffen muss an Waffen, aber auch an Investitionen in den Wiederaufbau oder in die Energieinfrastruktur.
The EU is now fully united behind America's plan. As long as they are under the US security umbrella, there's no escape. They'll eventually fall in line with every single American proposal. We have seen it in the recent trade war with China and now the seizure of Russian assets. So this economic war has no limits now. Asset seizure, trade tariffs, and export curbs, everything is fair game today. But as always, let me know what you think. How will Russia respond to this? And is the seizure a strategic move for the G7 or a very horrible decision? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.